What are the harshest, cruelest, most excruciating pains? There was a short discussion on the forums a long time ago, some forums, and people obviously said that childbirth or the pains during abuse or things like that or torture. And towards the end, I popped in and obviously said, well, these are just proofs that humans don't know much about themselves. See, I said there are actually two pains which go beyond any imagination because most people simply do not experience them, and they think that their pain is probably the only pain that there can be. See, the two greatest pains that exist, in a way, they are very similar, but one of them prevails over the second. I would say on level two, or top two, on the second place of top two would be the narcissist's pains. Now, many people say narcissistic people, the true, authentic ones, not the ones with narcissistic traits. People say narcissists have no emotions. Well, yes, indeed, they do actually have emotions, but they just do not show them. The point is, many people think if someone is apathic, they do not feel pains. Oh, I assure you, stab one of those, and I assure you they will feel equal pain as you. But apathy means a shutting down of your emotions or running away from them. It doesn't mean you're fully shutting them down. In some cases, some individuals actually can and they feel the emotions, but they do not recognize them anymore. See, it's not like the brain is killing the side of itself that is responsible with emotions. In some individuals, it may even do just that. But in the case of many people who are just ignorant sleepwalkers through life, it is just like an anesthetic, right? When you are anesthetized, the pain still exists. It's just that those substances, I think, if I remember correctly, they just inhibit the transmission of pain signals through the neurons so that they no longer reach the brain. Yes, this causes a soothing sensation within the pained patients because the pain still exists. It's just that they are no longer capable of feeling it. Yes, the problem still exists, the pain still exists, but the nervous system is numbed down enough that the patient is no longer in pain. Yes, this is probably one of the first things that any sane medic should actually do with their patients. Yes, it is, if I remember, like a core protocol, yes, of handling patients. Now, the narcissist does all the things that they do mainly because of these tremendous pains that they have. Of course, a lot of people seek to either forget about this, usually, or to simply ignore this, mainly because of the pain that the narcissists can inflict. But a narcissist enters your life either as a karmic event, which is usually something you're never gonna foresee, or because of the comfort of having dealt with them before and, well, you know how the script goes and it is comfortable for you. Yes, call it karmic punishment, call it whatever. You're the only one inflicting the punishment because you keep choosing to minimize and shrink yourself just so that you suffer at the sake of the others. Maybe because there's a conviction that when you suffer for the sake of others and when others inflict pain on you, at least that's some attention that they give you. Yes, and well, there are other reasons, but well, this is one common reasoning beyond a lot of people's suffering. Yes, and well, while not having emotions doesn't mean that you do not feel pain at all. Yes, and many times you see, I've said a long time ago, actually, let me put it like this. There is no such thing as a liar. See, lies are something that people say to others that, when they say something that they don't like. Yes, a fool will always say that someone's truth, even a general truth, is a lie because they're not ready or most likely they're not willing to accept the change. Yes, This is something that many people do. See, I've always said people can always be nothing but genuine. Yes? Everyone is always genuine to the extent that they can be. A narcissist, for example, is the most genuine person you will ever see. Of course, a lot of people can only perceive others being truthful if they are moral or if they are like them. Yes, like some religious people or some other people, especially fanatics. Yes, if you're not like them, you're not truthful, you're not honest, or the labeling goes on. A lot of people countered me or tried to counter me on narcissists being the most authentic. See, authenticism does not mean speaking the universal truth. Yes, authenticism means speaking your own internal truth. Call narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, people broken, but they are authentic to the function that they have. A psychopath is usually born so because they have a different brain wiring. A different brain wiring means they will not function like you, who is different from them, because this is how they function. Yes? It's like suddenly a computer uses a different kind of processor. Yes? You cannot blame the computer for functioning so. It was designed that way, and so the physical body was designed by their mother in a certain way based on, well, karmic principles and the quality of DNA of her lineage, and the quality of DNA of her husband, and obviously their own lineage as well, and well, multiple other factors. The piece of life that inhabited that physical body is, well, a piece of life that found that body based on its own knowledge, let's say, and based on what it seeks to experience in the current life that they want to experience. And, well, this goes on a bit further, but the point is just this. Yes? Do not think that people who function otherwise than you are not authentic. A narcissist will always be the most authentic person, mainly because cheating, lying, deceiving others, and the such, manipulating things to their own gains, this is the only thing they know. Yes? In the vast amount of layers of pains that they have in there, from abandonment to abuse, probably even sexual assaults, and whatever not, in the immense amounts of pains in there, these kind of things, these behaviors, these antisocial behaviors are the only things that they know. A big chunk of the narcissist's pains stem from the fact that despite their potential, they keep seeking to desperately shrink themselves. Yes? Which leads me to the biggest pain of all. A narcissist and many sociopaths are people who have slipped beyond the level of madness when it comes to shrinking themselves or to running away from what they are. People think that authenticism no longer exists when you run away from what you are. Well, you'd be surprised, but in a current lifetime, you will have to experience it fully, what it is like to be outside of what you truly are. When you look around, most humans already are at sports with this, yes? The majority of society feels like a bunch of deviants, yes? Of rats running away the rat maze, right? Running away as much as possible from themselves. And that's why they feel so drained, so tired. Not necessarily because they repeat the same scripts within their minds, they go through the same things again and again. Most people are just that. They're just plain, there's nothing greater to them because that is the potential of the life form that they are. That is also why they are authentic. Yes, they are just underleveled beings in a body that has potential way beyond their life form's capacities. Yes, there are such people. The worst of the bunches are what I call impulses. Yes, they're just impulses. They are just obsessions manifest through the physical body. They are just what you may call maybe a demon, but a demon is a bit more complex than just that of those impulsions. Yes, but I don't know much here. This goes a bit beyond. But impulse people are those people who just exist to exploit, to survive technically, because they are just always at the social, societal survival of the self and survival of their own thoughts, of their own personas. Yes, that is the only thing that matters. They're not capable of any emotion. They're not capable of comprehending anyone or anything. Their own stupidity is the only truth that there can be. Yes? The worst pain that there can be out there is the pain of of an empath, yes, particularly of a pantheist. And I'm telling you this out of personal experience. See, when you're capable of experiencing things in such ways, you are capable of reaching levels of empathy in which you empathize even with objects. It may sound as some kind of delusion level, but I assure you that is not a delusion. See, imagine suddenly you make a certain realization. You know, one day, as a pantheist, one day I realized a great pain would be if you were to be an object. One of the worst pains would be to be a box or to be an envelope. Yes, because imagine you had traveled half across the world. You travel long distances to deliver someone the things that they ordered just to be discarded immediately after they receive those things. Imagine the joy of actually fulfilling the journey to deliver someone something and then you are simply discarded. This also happens to a lot of empaths because they traveled great lengths, maybe not necessarily physically, but you get the point, to deliver other people the emotions that they can deliver just to be discarded for, less important people. And, well, you should never call them less important just because they're not capable of your own emotional aspects. Everyone has to learn their own things. The greater pains in your life stem from your obsessions, from your necessities, and from constantly shrinking yourself just to please other people. Many people argue that, childbirth is the most excruciating pain, or like pain from different kinds of tortures. See, well, a lot of tortures usually base themselves mostly on emotional pain, not just the physical ones. And yes, obviously, we can always say that most, if not all of those, are obviously torturous, pun intended, and that also childbirth is you know, the most excruciating. Not every woman chooses to give birth. Secondarily, childbirth lasts while it lasts, and then no woman ever remembers the pain of giving birth to their child. Also, childbirth is something that you can choose to make, and given the level of idiocy of people nowadays, I think it would be a wiser choice not to have children necessarily. I mean, sure, obviously, this remains a choice to each and every individual. But the point is, that is something you can go around, yes? And some women actually give birth while under anesthesia, yes, to avoid the pain. Because some simply cannot handle that much pain. And, well, it is no shame, it is no problem with that. But in the end, not every woman actually goes through such torment, yes? Torturing is not something that most humans end up going through, yes? And, well, mostly on the physical level. A lot of people, like all the people actually, are not spared the idea of shrinking yourself because there will always be that workplace, the school system, and or your family that will teach you to shrink yourself just because they've been doing that. It's the only comfort they have, and obviously they would want you to suffer their own fate as well because, well, it's fun simply pulling people down and, ruining them and even being happy about that, right? You see a lot of women doing that to their men, you see a lot of men doing that to their women, and, well, it feels to these people like a competition. How many people can they pull down, right? This is the impulse that they are. Just that. There is nothing else. No other thought, no other consideration. And, well, obviously, we can't even speak about emotions because this is why I call those people impulse people, because there is just that impulse, there is just that point of view, there is nothing else. Yes, and it is not even a thought. Yes, they are not thinking about that. That is their only truth. That is the only means that they live by. That is why I always tell people are always authentic. Maybe you don't like their level of authenticity. Maybe you don't like how they are authentic and you call them liars or something like that. But I assure you, the only liars that there are in this world are those who simply seek to run away from themselves because they wish to go back for the comfort of not feeling that much emotion. I assure you, being a pantheist in the world of sickness, I assure you that is the worst pain you can ever get. Because you end up beating yourself so much, you end up perceiving everything around you like life. You end up feeling pains of people who lived way before you, just because they felt those pains so long throughout their life, so intensely throughout their life, that it's like you're feeling them in real life right now, as if those people are still alive. You enter a certain place, you feel certain emotions and certain things that probably happened way before your life, or you feel the intense emotions of other people around. You know, some dumb people will go as far as saying that they're glad they're not feeling that. Well, no, do not be glad. You're not glad you're not feeling that. You're glad you're numbed down enough to not feel that, but I assure you, you feel that equally as an empath. It's just the empath is aware of that. You see, the tiredness that many people feel is not necessarily a physical tiredness. It's the tiredness that they feel because of running away from themselves. While torturing and childbirth happen as long as they do, running away from oneself is something most people do their entire fucking lives. Maybe they are not as excruciating because you don't necessarily feel torn out by something physical. Yes, you're not withering in pains, but the point is, you're just slowly and surely demolishing yourself. You're fighting against yourself. This is a fight you cannot run away from. Yes, because you may dodge your torturers. You may conduct self destruction to avoid being tortured. You may do so many things. Yes, you may actually start becoming wiser and stop pissing off the wrong people. And you can live a better life. You can do things to dodge childbirth, or you can do things to dodge even torturers and such. But you cannot dodge the idea of, running away from who you are. Yes, that only stops when you choose to stop it. When you choose to no longer embrace the comfort of keeping yourself dim just to fit other people's egos, other people's impulses, other people's comfort zones. They may be your parents, they may be your school people, whatever. If you can rid yourself of those, just screw those and simply rid yourself entirely of those. It can be your family, it can be your spouse, it can be your so called circle of friends. Well, if your friends are making you dim yourself, well, that's a cage, that's a prison, not a set of friends. Yes, they're just proliferating on the pains of you living small. Because, yet again, these are impulse people. They only have one little truth that they follow, that of dimming others down, that of sabotaging others. They are just tests in everyone's life. That is why they feel no remorse, because they are just a compulsion. They must sabotage the next person, they must victimize, they must vampirize on someone. It is usually two or three at most such compulsions. Yes, you cannot fix those. You cannot do anything because they would rather end their miserable life than admitting any truth. And that is why even some narcissists end up ending their lives just because of such situations. Hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated, take care, enjoy life, and well, this being said, Ferinjan Board signing out.